With Honda developing a new goal of selling 500,000 EVs in North America by 2030 and selling mainly EVs and fuel cell vehicles by 2040, we're going to be seeing a ramped up Honda introducing a bunch of new electric vehicles very soon. And to begin with, they're going to be introducing the Honda Prologue and its Acura counterpart. So today we're going to be going over everything we know so far on the fully electric battery EV called the Honda Prologue and what we know so far on that design, the interior, and the powertrain. So let's get right into it. For those of you that didn't know, actually, GM and Honda are going to be in a joint venture to develop this vehicle. It's going to be sharing the Ultium battery platform, which underpins the Cadillac Lyriq and some of the GMC Hummer EV, as well as the Chevy Blazer EV, which was just released in premiering as well. Honda will design the bodies and interiors on vehicles like the Prologue themselves, but to begin with, they joined this venture just to save costs and efficiency and see how this platform plays out. And obviously we'll be making a more luxurious version for the Acura, which we'll be covering in a future video. But as I mentioned, it's pretty exciting to see this happening, to see the collaboration of different automakers to sort of expedite and continue this development into a whole new segment of vehicles. And as other brands have already said, why not an EV as well? I think they can all coexist. Hydrogen vehicles, battery powered, fuel cell, hybrid electric, all the vehicles, all different engines, motors, powertrains can be good, in my opinion. And in terms of the styling, it actually does have quite similar styling cues in terms of size and overall stature and outline to the Chevy Blazer as well as the Cadillac Lyriq. But where it does differ even through the prototype, as we can see, is the back end. It's completely sort of its own styling, a little bit more similar to some of the Honda design language, and it's same for the front. But in terms of the size, it's interesting to see the overall shape of this vehicle. It doesn't really look much like the CR-V. Maybe we'll get a hybridized or electrified version of that as well in the future, but this seems to have its own unique design language. In terms of pricing and powertrain, I think that a good starting point to see different options, again, as I mentioned, is the Chevy Blazer. It's supposed to do somewhere between 250 and 350 miles on its range. And given the fact that they've already actually released a Blazer SS performance variant of that vehicle, the powertrain capabilities for this Honda Equinox, Honda Prologue, I should say, but an Equinox is later coming. It's definitely going to have the possibility to have upwards up to 500 horsepower, depending on the trim levels, and front all-wheel drives, depending on the single or dual motor setups as well. So the Prologue won't actually go on sale until the 2024 calendar year. And as I mentioned, some of the GM options will be available sooner in 2023. But it's exciting to see that these are currently now in the works, in production. And just wanted to go over what we know so far on the Honda Prologue. The interior definitely follows some recent trends, not only from Honda, but other electrified vehicles, adopting two pretty large screens, a full digital instrument cluster as well, measuring 11 inches, coming as standard equipment, and the infotainment touchscreen is also 11.3 inches and hasn't given away all the buttons. You still have a few for the climate controls and the HVAC and things of that nature. And in terms of the actual size, comparison to the CR-V, which measures 106 inches between the axles, while the Passport is 111 inches. The longer distance definitely shows that you get that more legroom. This is going to be a pretty spacious vehicle inside. Honda obviously does have that CR-V. Like I mentioned earlier, the design shows definitely a little bit of a lower ceiling than that of the HCR-V, but the Prologue is 192 inches long, so it's definitely longer than some of its competitors. But at the same time, it's going to have a massive wheelbase. As I mentioned, it's noticeably larger even than the Passport. Pretty crazy to think about. It's going to have a pretty spacious trunk space, which again is pretty useful when it comes to having a family. You need 1 or 2 seats in the back just for your children, but also in the back if you have a few suitcases and are packing for a longer trip. This sort of functionality and utility is key. And as I mentioned, where they kind of gave up some room in terms of the height, which we're probably going to see on the new CR-Vs as well, they made up interior wise, because one of the main benefits of having an electric vehicle platform is more interior space due to the fact that the engine doesn't take as much room and height interior. So this is how they were able to sort of change the profile, make it a little bit more similar to the Chevy Blazer size wise, but still introduce Honda's own individual styling and own individual way of doing business, because it's obviously a little bit different than the American companies.